Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, where we inform, entertain, and challenge educators to be the change. I am your host, Dr. Will. And each week we zoom in someone who's dope, who works in social innovation or entrepreneurship. And we just sit back and have a nice conversation about how you can live your best life. And this week I am here with Komal Minhas. How are you doing, Komal?
Very well. I'm so pumped to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. People, if you are not familiar with Komal, she was mentioned in my interview with Aaron when we talked about their venture together, which was, so awesome. You go on YouTube and you read all about the female-only crew and the entrepreneurs. You get excited. You go, okay, this is special. But you yourself took a break and you have your own things that you are doing. And then I wanted to bring you on because you have been talking and writing about a lot of things that I think are very valuable to people, especially in the times we're living in. So for those who will be watching on YouTube or listening on SoundCloud or iTunes, will you please introduce yourself?
I'm Komal Minhas. I worked on the documentary film Dream Girl. I produced it alongside my director, Aaron Bagwell, and it's a documentary film about female entrepreneurs in and around New York City. Our mission with that film was to uplift and inspire women and girls to be their, as you said, best selves, to really come out of stereotypes and things that may hold us back when we hit the workplace, and to embrace what makes us shine and who we truly are. And once Dream Girl completed, and during the Dream Girl process, I was actually diagnosed with a very rare form of skin cancer and had to undergo 2 invasive surgeries. I found out the diagnosis, and then 2 weeks later, we were named to Oprah's Super Soul 100 list. There's Queen O back there. I had my first surgery, and 2 weeks later, we were premiering at the Obama White House. And then I had my next surgery, and it was the same week I was on a magazine cover. So it was a year of my life where I had these insane highs and crazy lows. And I didn't take the time that I needed to recover. I feel like it's so hard for us to talk about how we really need to take care of ourselves in this society that's hustle, 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 go, 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 and also within this political climate. And so what ultimately happened is, after I was cancer-free, a few months later, I got hit with a neurological illness that made me uproot my life in New York and move here back to Canada. And that was last January. And so over the past year and a half now, I've been slowly working on rebuilding my life, rebuilding my identity, figuring out who I am and what I'm here to do, how I'm meant to serve. And I relaunched my company, KoMedia, in September last year, with a focus on building a movement to help people tell their hard and difficult stories through different forms of media collaborations, film, technology, different investments that I do. And now that's my focus. And I am all in on this. When I was sick, I just knew that what was going to get me out of it was sharing my story and finding ways to help other people tell their true stories and reach their own full potential. So that's where I'm at now.
So what drives you, and what is your personal mission? Because I know you just mentioned the mission of your company, but what is your personal mission?
My personal mission is to help people unleash their unrealized potential, for them to realize the truth and power of who we all are as individuals when we clear away the debris of trauma and pain that exists in our lives. Sometimes we can get so encumbered by different types of addictions and different types of tendencies, whether it's alcohol, whether it's work addictions, but we don't look at the root cause of what's making us do those things. And I find that once we do, then purpose can emerge in a more true way. Then alignment can happen. Then we can do the kind of work we're meant to do here. So my personal mission is to be a reminder for people of their own true potential. And that's what drives me. Specifically as well, I'm Indian. And within my culture, I'm the first in my family, in my lineage, to not have an arranged marriage, not have my family pick out who I'm going to marry. And so decoupling from a lot of gender stereotypes, a lot of patriarchy that exists in my culture. And so women and girls, and ensuring that we tell stories, powerful, important stories about women and girls, is key to my own personal mission and drive.
Mm. So what does it mean to you to dwell in the possibility? And why do you think so many of us sabotage ourselves?
Hand up, I am a sabotager. I think that we go through seasons. The ability to dwell in the possibility comes from our ability to relax into our reality. So often, we're so afraid of the way that our lives are now. We feel like there's something inherently wrong with us or the circumstances we're in or our boss or whatever. We're uncomfortable with our lives. The only way we can dwell in possibility is when you accept what your life actually is in this moment, right this second. And then you can release and surrender to the possibility of all you're meant to become. Because this is what we forget, is everything we aspire to be, we already have the capacity and everything that we need to get there. So taking our hands off the wheel and saying, I trust in my divine potential, and I trust in my ability to do what's necessary to get to that next milestone, to get to that next goal. And I'm going to let it be easy. I'm going to put in the work, but I'm not going to hate the process. When we release, when we surrender, we can dwell in that possibility.
So how do we do that? You know, because we live in this world that, and Friedman said this many years ago about the world is flat. And now for sure, you know, whatever distance you thought we had between each other as human beings is so small now because of the internet and everyone. I mean, there are people in all over the world in places you may not even think that someone's walking around with a smartphone. And so we are so connected, and while whether it be Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, we are looking at people who are doing all kind of things. We're like, oh my gosh, look at their lives. Oh man, they're making all this money, or they're dressing this way, or they're speaking here, they're doing that, and I'm here. How does someone do what you say and believe in it when it's so easy to compare where they are to what they see other people doing?
It is doing the actual hard work. People think that building the company is the hard part, or, you know, making that first million is the hard part. The hard part is dealing with your emotional shit. So few people are willing to do that. Why do you lust after the following? Why do you desire to be seen in such interesting ways? Why does the following matter? Why do the numbers matter? Why is that what you desire? Is that really what you desire? And for me, the only reason I can speak to it is because I was there. I was meeting Oprah. I was being acknowledged I was at the Obama White House premiering my first documentary. I was on top of the world, but I hated myself. I was so sick inside. I had so much work to do. So we hear this all the time, but I want you to hear the depth of what this statement is you are seeing the highlight reels. You are seeing the highlight reels. And I'm not even saying that you're not seeing the work that goes behind it in terms of tangible, showing up to work every day kind of work. You're not seeing the pain. Everyone is in pain. Depression is rampant. Loneliness is rampant. These are the facts of life, but this is the shit that few people are willing to talk about. Behind every Instagram perfect photo is someone's deep pain, whether they've healed it or not. And so the way to do that for me, I call it real self-care. It is therapy. It is professional coaching. It is emotional coaching. It is physiotherapy appointments so that you heal the ailments in your body. It is nutrition. And I have had to take the past year of my life off so that I could actually do this work. And people might call it a luxury. Sure, write me off. Say, you took a year off, what a luxury. I took a year off so I wouldn't die. That's why I did that. My life was on the line. My mortality was on the line. So this is real self-care. Going to the doctor's appointments, getting the blood work done that you've been putting off, doing the hard work and asking yourself, what do I have to heal physically, emotionally, so that when I do get followers, it doesn't destroy me? Because what you're looking at, that line you want to cross, that 1 million followers that you want, there is still pain on the other side of that, unless you resolve it. And then you can dwell on your own possibility, because then you're not encumbered by all the judgment, all the self-hatred, and all the things that are actually holding you
back. Okay. You went deep.
I did. It's all I can do, right? It's, it's just like that experience. I'm learning how to talk about it more. I had my talking points before. I recovered and it's like, no, like that was the hardest shit I've ever had to go through. And if me going through that, if I can share a little bit of real insight here, it's like the hard work is what no one wants to talk about. And it's because no one wants to talk about it. So let's talk about it.
All right. Okay, people. I had a guest on my show, and she talked about having not just the dream, but the impossible dream. And then there's people, you go to YouTube and you watch Gary Vee, and, he just talks about the hustle and the work, the 24/7 grind. And he tells people, everybody not cut out to be an entrepreneur because you got to live it, you got to eat it, you got to drink it. And you hear so many people talk about the hustle, particularly on this entrepreneurship circuit. Is it all about the hustle? I mean, I know the grind is important, but how does someone actually bring about their impossible dreams to life?
The one thing I love about Gary, and I'm a big Gary fan, full disclosure, because behind every Instagram post is a loving family, is 6 or more weeks of vacation a year, our full night's rest, and our weekends off. And he talks about this. He says, people tell me like, this is unsustainable, whatever. And he's like, but you're not seeing, like, he keeps his family out of his public profile. You don't get to see the emotional supports that man has in his life, being the son of immigrants and being like going through the struggle that he did. I am a first generation Canadian. My parents moved here in 1974. I know the kind of community that comes around first generation kids. Like, you are so supported emotionally. And the level of self awareness that he has, like, and at the strategy, you have to dissect what people are putting out there and realizing the strategy that goes behind building a following. And you have to take the emotion out of it. If he showed his family life, if he showed these different things, maybe he wouldn't be as successful as he is. They're dialing into the content that people are responding to. People are responding to hustle, grind, 24/7, watching Gary build his business because that's what they're comfortable with trying to emulate. If he was talking about his potential coaching sessions in between, or the self-care that he does, or his like morning workouts, people love that shit too. So what am I saying? But there are certain aspects of, what it takes to actually live that kind of life that are maybe a bit too frou-frou for him to talk about. So like, let's talk about the fact that Gary Light has a very full life, and he alludes to it, but he doesn't show it. So for people to like get to that impossible dream, I call it's my 3 pillars. It's community, it's like financial stability, and it's self-love. If you have the village around you that you need, I have my core people. I'm getting married this year, and when I picked my bridesmaids, it was like, you have seen me through some shit. You've walked with me through my hardest hour. And you showed up for me every phone call, every message. You did not run. You stood with me. That is community. The way that we get there is by willing to open ourselves up to other people. And that comes from self-love. Once you have that combination of support and of that self-belief, and it's not always, it's not constant, it's wavering. I had dinner with a friend last night, and she's like a very successful entrepreneur, and it still goes through that, but knowing that you can cultivate more and more self-love, and you can build a stronger community over time. And then that financial stability. Marie Forleo talks about how she had a side hustle for the first 7 years of her career. And now she's multi-million-dollar business doing B-school and coaching and all of this. But for 7 years, she kept side jobs. It's not going to happen overnight. Overnight success is not real. That's what Gary's talking about. The hustle is just showing up every day. It's not grinding out 18-hour days for the sake of 18-hour days. It's how do you sustain this over time, the long term, the long game? How do you make sure you don't get so sick that you think you're going to die? Long game, sustainable work habits so that you can show up for the next 50 years of your life. That is how you get to the impossible dream.
That's all right. That's all right. I like that. And I'm making a pivot with my side hustle because I used to do more face-to-face consulting where I would go to a school district, go to a conference. But the problem there is I have to travel and I only have so many personal days off of work. And quite honestly, I would rather spend those personal days actually doing something other than working. So the wife and I are transitioning our company to a digital company where we are offering courses to teachers and we're offering webinars. And if a school really is like, yo, come on out, then, we'll try to make that happen. But I wanted time to have that remote situation going on where the wife and I can kind of kick back. And when I take the personal day, we kick back and the checks still keep coming in. So that's where I have been and sort of thinking about where do I want my life to go and how do I want things to go. And Gary, he has some good stuff. Sometimes he says stuff, you go, look, man, where are you? When someone asks him, what do you fear? My wife and children dead.
Yeah.
Where does that come? What does stuff like that come from?
It comes from love. Like, I'm getting married this year and I look at my fiance. We've been together 9.5 years since I was 19 years old. It's like I'm going into like all of my adulthood. I've lived with this man. We went from being like kids to being adults, and he's walked with me through some really hard shit. And I just am like, how could I live? Like, what would I do if you weren't here? So like, I understand where he gets that, and when you talk about, how you want to spend time, and I want to say like, your progression with like going from the in-person to the online, like that's exactly what Marie did. It's exactly what so many of these very successful entrepreneurs do, because it's like you're in the shit with like the actual people that you're wanting to impact. You've done like the field work to know how to now curate your online courses. And it's like, that's brilliant. And you're going to get this freedom from that digital, when you build those amazing digital products. And I'm so happy about, like, that makes me so happy when I hear that. And so when it comes to like Gary's biggest fear, I think that's also like an indicator of he's got his priorities straight. It's like he doesn't give a fuck about his business at the end of the day. Pardon my F-bomb.
Ooh, but that's Gary V-ish.
I know. I do sometimes swear way more than my mother would like me to. But he's like, the business at the end of the day doesn't matter, because it's like, if he were to lose his family, then what's a business, And at the end of the day, like, he would need to sustain himself or whatever, but it wouldn't have to be a couple $100 million business if you don't have the people you love. So that's that reprioritization.
Okay, so many of my folks, educators, we're out here putting in the work. We're writing, we're presenting at conferences, we're podcasting, we're crushing it at work, but yet we downplay our accomplishments. And I think that's a part of sort of keeping many of us from reaching that next level. Why should we brag on ourselves?
Because if you don't do it, who's going to do it for you? I like look to my mom, and I say it with a gentleness, because like, my mom is my number one. She's like my hype girl. She's got me, but she's kind of pulled back lately, because it's like, she's realized that she could hype me up all she wants and like try and make me feel better and good. But if I don't believe it, very few other people will. And even if other people do, if it comes from a place of fakeness, then I'm not really serving the way I want to serve. I want people to feel lit up. I want them to feel like on fire about their lives. And if I don't actually feel that, then what am I putting into the world? But what I will say is, it's like, it's not a constant again. Like, I was talking to Kylie about it earlier. Kylie works on my team. And we were talking about, I went for a dinner party last night, and I'm more reclusive these days. I live out on an acreage in the country. And then when I do my public speaking events, it's kind of like my hype moment when I get to see a lot of people, save the energy for that, and then go back to my little acreage. And I'm not used to meeting a lot of new people these days. And so I saw some new people last night, and they were asking me about the film and all of the great things and whatever. And I couldn't bring myself to be hype about it. So it's like, maybe we don't have to be like that all the time. But in the moments that matter, when you're pitching yourself for that next project or that next client, own who you are and own what you've accomplished. It's so hard for me. Self-promotion is very tough for me. And I think it's coming from a very humble background with, my parents being first-generation immigrants. They don't really hype what they've built and created. It was never something I saw modeled. Like, not that we weren't confident, but we didn't know how to talk about our accomplishments because it just was a matter of life. So maybe sometimes we just need to step away from it being ourselves and promote our Sasha Fierce instead. Who's the persona we're trying to promote of ourselves? And then slowly walk more and more towards that person.
So I want to throw this out there to you, because the next question on the sheet, I think you may have answered earlier. When people are they've gone through the work that you spoke of earlier, and they're trying to figure out, how do I put my foot forward? But you have to be you and not be someone else. But again, we see so much, and we're educated by so many things that you may go, okay, well, let me pull something from this person. Let me pull something from this person. Let me do this, but it may not be who they are. So I guess, how does someone sort of discover that niche about themselves, and what makes them the original individual they are, so that when they step out in front, they're not putting on an act, but they are indeed being their full selves?
I wonder if sometimes when we're emulating, I heard this quote, and it's like, what you're jealous of in someone else is what you most want for yourself. And so when we're choosing who to emulate, we're not like, we got to give ourselves some credit. We're choosing it because it resonates with us. So sometimes maybe the imposter syndrome of, I'm not being my full self, or I'm trying too hard to be like this person. There's something about them that makes you just know that's part of you. And maybe it's a perspective change of, am I really going out here and not being myself? Or is this really a part of myself that I'm just not fully on board with yet, that I'm hating myself about wanting to be? For a lot of people who are trying to build online followings or, create an audience, there's a lot of self-loathing involved, because it's like, who am I to try and want to be someone in the world? Who am I to try and inspire other people? It's like, who are you not? We're all divine beings. God put us here for a very specific purpose. Oprah talks about it all the time. If we don't let ourselves serve, we're doing the greatest disservice in the world. We are here with a purpose. And so even if it takes emulating someone else for a little while to dial in a little bit closer to what that looks like for you, don't judge yourself for it. Just let it be part of how you iterate to become that version of yourself you're walking towards.
I just had to get to a point to where I said, I'm just going to cut loose and not overthink what I do. So this is like my 4th year in doing my podcast. And when I first did it, I did what normal educators do. I talk about work. I interviewed educators on pedagogy and curriculum, and I would sprinkle some different stuff in, and I got to a point where I said, I'm bored. And I don't want to do that anymore. I really want my podcast to be about educators taking control over their lives, their career, and their money. And I was sort of kind of like, I want to do this, but I don't know. because I'm like, will my audience, will they ride with me?
Mm.
And I just say, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do it.
Yes.
I came, new graphic logo, and I have a hashtag invest in you edu. And I said, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do me. My job is to get better at being myself. And oddly enough, I've been blessed to where the new season actually has more plays than the other seasons before.
Wow.
Because I'm just out here just trying to.
Because you're being you unabashedly and learning what that looks like more and more. And then the service, then it, like that selfless service comes through. And that's what people are jamming with. It's like, but it's coming back to that long game. 4 years of podcasting. Like, I'm giving you this Zoom high five because that shit is hard. Consistently doing it for 4 years. Like, wow. And so naturally it iterates and you become more of who you want to be because you're practiced and it's becoming second nature. And so you get to focus more on the who am I and how do I want this thing to become a better reflection of me. So that's like, I'm hype about that.
Well, thank you. I'm very comfortable in my skin now. I'm very comfortable in doing this to where I don't get nervous anymore. So I've had people on the show that some folks will be like, oh my gosh, that's how you get that person. But I'm just like, hey, how you doing? Let's do this thing, because I have done this so much and I'm no longer concerned per se with the interview. I mean, I have my questions, but I try not to, I'm not going, what drives you? I'm sitting, I'm trying to be conversational and throw things out there just so that, because when I do the interviews, it is never about me. It is always about my guests. I try to amplify their voices. And really what I want at the end of the day is for the people who listen to my podcast to find some nugget, some jewel that will get them to take that next step. I know this podcast isn't going to change someone's life overnight, but if someone can listen to it and go, wow, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And then move forward, then I would think that I've done what I needed to do.
Absolutely. I love that. And it just comes back to your consistency over time. Your vision in the long game has both given you the comfort that you need for this to be more net. Like, as soon as I came on, I was like, yeah, I got no questions because you're just making me feel really comfortable and let's get into it. The consistency for your audience to be able to grow alongside you. Like, that's such a huge thing. And I think this is like the core of all of it, like real self-care, all these things that I'm now promoting. It's, you have to show up every day for you. Every single day that you are blessed to be alive, show up for you. Bottom line, that will increase your ability to serve. It'll increase your ability to be seen. It'll increase the amount of love in your life. And those are the things that we all want so much.
I love that. I'm telling you, what, all this stuff, you're dropping all this for free.
Oh, this is my pain point. My pain point is, I'm just figuring out how to monetize I'm doing all the jabs. I feel like right now I just have to give it. It's just coming out of me. And it's like, there's no box for me to put any of this in. And I have to be okay with that right now. So yeah, it's like, I just got to serve and I'll figure the rest out along the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it because it didn't cost me anything.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. A lot of it, I love interviews because it gives me a chance to reflect on where I'm at too.
So there are a lot of educators. Most educators, in fact, within the United States are women. And educators in general, they don't like to talk about money. It's very hush-hush. Now, our base salary can easily be found. You can go on any state website. All you need to know how long this person's been teaching, their level of degree attainment, what they're making. But we don't talk about it. And then we have this thing in our community where people are writing for a lot of these major ed tech publications, they're doing it for free.
Mm.
They are becoming ambassadors in these programs where they will go out and present at conferences for these companies. They do all these things. They'll do Twitter chats for free. I've told them stop, because I don't do free. But I say this because you know, again, we just put the money like it's not important. How important, I guess, is it for us to have that discussion about money, and for women and people of color to talk about building generational wealth?
Huge. So I'm glad you bring this up and in this succession, because I just talked about how I'm jabbing, giving a lot of this knowledge for free right now, but my money's working for me. My money's invested. I was so blessed to know the right people at the right time. One of my best friends started a medical marijuana company here in Canada, and the market is taking off because legalization is happening in a few months. So I am well taken care of. So I can focus on purpose. I'm in a very blessed circumstance to do that. So I don't want people to hear me saying, oh, I'm jabbing and be like, oh, I need to give my services for free. No. If this is something that can enable your livelihood, if there is something of value that can be ascertained to what you're offering, put it on it. That organization, that whatever, might say no, but you're going to feel so much better. I canceled a free speaking event last week because the level of engagement from who you're working with shifts when there's a monetary involvement. Unless it's for an organization that matters to my heart, which, you know, I was speaking on mental health in a few weeks for free because it's so important to me. It's something I value. But this was just like engage. I don't need to do that for free. So I'm not going to do it for free. Brene Brown talks about how she went to a conference where she was underpaid, and the organizer didn't even know what her focus area was. So could you imagine going into a space and last minute having someone say, oh, I didn't realize that's what you're talking about? It shoots your own confidence. So set up circumstances so that you can thrive. How do you thrive? By being paid. Let's name that. Like, why are we afraid of money when we literally live in a capitalist society that thrives on our insecurities and markets to us in a way that we spend our money on things that actually make us feel like shit? That is the marketing machine that is working against us every single day. So how do we work against it? By making money. My focus on intergenerational wealth comes from my dad coming to Canada with very little money, building businesses over the last 40 years that can sustain me and another generation at least of my children. The wealth that I've been able to leverage from my parents working so hard every single day and not having the luxury of even understanding what self-care or a day off was for majority of their life. Now I leverage that to create even more wealth through moving us into investing. We have to be thoughtful. We have to learn. We have to put in the time. There are so many dynastic white families who have been doing this for generations. It's our time. We need to do this. It's not just for you. And if asking for money for that Twitter chat is hard, it's not just for you. It's for everyone who came before you who didn't have the opportunity to even ask for a dime. It's not about us. Building generational wealth, it's not about us. So take yourself out of the equation and just make it about that bigger mission. If we can do, like, we're at a very interesting inflection point. It's a long game, again, like generations after generations to quote unquote catch up, but maybe we're not even trying to catch up. How do we do it in a way that's authentic to us, but that can serve generations to come so that they learn what money can be? It can be a vessel for the most incredible positive impact in the world. And that's what I believe. So that's what I focus on.
I don't have children or pets. But I want that
long community. You know, you'll write a will one day. Who will bequeath?
Well, you have some nieces and nephews, you know.
There you go.
Part of me doing my eyes on the prize with money is because, you know, people, when you watch House Hunters and all those things, it's cheap to buy a house. It's expensive to maintain it. And so, there's some renovations we want to do on the house. I want to be able to go to the wife and say, spring break is next month. Do you want to go to Maui? And we re-roll. We go, and pay for it. Not on the credit card, but you just pay for it because the money is there. That's why I do the work I do. That's why I'm trying to do all of these things with the side business, is to get that income so that I'm already comfortable now, but I want to be real comfortable and be able to put away money so that when I am 70 years old and inshallah living, I can be like, I'm good. Yeah. I can still vacation. If I on a medication that's expensive, okay, I got this. I just don't want to worry about money at all. I don't want to have any sleepless nights. I don't want to be at 75, go be at Walmart becoming a greeter or something, because I'm like, damn, I need some money coming in. I don't ever want to worry about money, which is why I do what I do.
Absolutely. It's huge. And I mean, I am sitting in Canada, a country of significant privilege, where I know that a lot of teachers are paid super well here. The base salary for someone coming out of university to teach is significant. I can't quote numbers, but I know what one of my friends was paid. And it's like and then Social Security here, universal healthcare, which is why I had to move back to Canada. There are certain things that are taken care of here that I don't need to worry about, that you in America do have to worry about, like expensive medication. And it's a systemic issue that disproportionately impacts people of color. And so, yeah, let's talk about how we're stockpiling money so that later in life, it doesn't feel like torture to live in the country that we live in, because that's what it's about. It's not just about making money for money's sake. It's there are things systemically within the systems we live in that are working against us on a daily. So how do we counter that? What does this society value? How do I build it with integrity and intention, which you're doing to take care of you and your wife and live the life that you guys have always wanted? I think that's a great reason.
That's all right. This is just so amazing. I'm enjoying this conversation.
I love it.
Well,
it's my favorite thing.
I appreciate it. I want to end this interview by asking you about your call to action for those people who don't feel as though their life is moving in a positive direction. They just get up every day, they go to work. They come home, they get up, they go to work. They come home, they get up and go to work every day. And there's no shine in their spirit. There's no smile for them. They're just going through their day. How do they get that pick me up? How do they see, the brightness down the end of the tunnel? What do you say to them?
There's a lot of one-liners that we've heard so often that I'm trying to avoid saying. But depression's real for me. It's something that I deal with often. And my last depressive episode was last week. And they're getting shorter. They're getting a little bit less painful. But it's my life. It's my reality. And part of that routine, because for me, routine has always been something I've lusted after. I grew up in a chaotic household. I grew up in a household filled with alcoholism and just a lot of chaos. And I always just wish I had a routine. And so for people who, you're feeling like your days are just monotonous and going, know that you already are a level up, because you wake up, you have breakfast, you go to work, you come home, you do what you got to do, you go to bed. Routine. And little tweaks in that routine can completely change your perspective. Whether you're a meditator, whether prayer is your meditation, whether exercise is something that brings you joy, figuring out what are the things that bring lightness and a little bit of extra pump through that heart that make you feel good and integrate them into that already existing routine, especially for educators, because you are on routine. You know how your year is going to look years in advance because of the school year, because of the weeks that you're going to have off. You know, planning that trip to Hawaii to give yourself that little lift, planning that trip maybe just, you know, outside to that B&B down the road, changing scenery. The one, like, because routine is so ingrained in your profession, to add a little extra shine is just to do small minor tweaks. We always feel like it needs to be this big thing. I need to change my career. I need to move. No, I went through a massive move. I massively changed my career. I got sick with a really intense illness. You don't need any of that. Let this moment be your wake-up call. I am giving you permission to let this be easy, to let bring in the shine back be so easy by just bringing in a couple extra steps to your everyday routine, the ones that bring you joy. Yeah.
Wow. I want to release this podcast right now. That's just.
I would love that.
That's just how good. That's just how good I'm feeling right now. This is awesome. I thank you very much for coming on the show. This has been fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have done this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And wow. Yeah, this is going to come out today. People. So thank you, Komal, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Will.
You are welcome. So, folks, you know how I do this. The video cast will be going up on YouTube. I need you to please subscribe and leave your comments. The audio podcast is going up on iTunes and SoundCloud. Again, I need you to subscribe and leave your messages, because your boy's trying to get Oprah on the show, and I want her to see, you know, I'm doing it like that. Okay, so I need you. I need you to show me some love, people. So you know how we do this. As always, invest in you, eat in you. Peace.